This episode of the Nerd Corporation podcast may contain spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Retromania!
What up, everybody? It's Monday, and you know what that means.
It's almost Tuesday.
Yes. It's also podcast day. Welcome to Retromania 2, aka Season 2, Episode 3. X-Men gon' give it to you. He gon' give it to you.
Gonna give it to you.
Hey, yo, bitch. Let me get some water and some lemon. So today we're going to talk about the X-Men animated series. But first, we're going to get into the nerd news. In comic and TV news, brought to you by Deadline.com, Doom Patrol Imagining on the DC Universe streaming app casts Alan Tudyk as antagonist Eric Mortar, a.k.a. Mr. Nobody, and Brendan Fraser as Robot Man. Written by Jeremy Carver, Doom Patrol is a reimagining of one of DC's strangest group of outcasts. Robot Man, played by Brendan Fraser. Negative Man, Elasti-Woman, played by April Bowlby. And Crazy Jane, played by Diane Guerrero. Led by the mysterious Calder, they are called into action by the ultimate hero for the digital age, Cyborg, played by Jovian Wade. Banding together, these rejects find themselves on a mission that will take them to the weirdest and most unexpected corners of the DC universe. To me, these guys seem like the DC answer to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. So they're not like anti-heroes. They're not like the Dark Avengers.
No.
They're just some oddballs.
I'm gonna be honest. I have next to zero knowledge of these people, but
Yeah.
Nor do
This
I.
is
but
all just
but I am
established to me.
I'm
I've
100% on board. Obviously because of Alan Tudyk, but
Absolutely.
my man Brendan Fraser's coming
Right?
back.
Right? Like,
I'm so excited for this.
thank God that he's
Because
getting
you've
some time.
heard how, like, I'm sure you've heard how, like, all this shit that he's, like, gone through.
I actually
like,
have no idea.
it's been, like, I think he got divorced and, like, lost, like, half of his shit.
This is Fraser you're talking about?
Brendan Fraser, yeah. And now it's like, I read that on Facebook, actually, for the first time, and I was like, wait, like, the Brendan Fraser?
So
I was
did he
like-
just sort of like personally go away intentionally, just like fuck all
I
the
think
shit?
I think he kind of pulled, like, a, not in the same sense, but like a Rick Moranis, how he's
Yeah.
kind of...
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Distance himself
personal
from
trauma
movies.
is personal trauma.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm glad to
Okay.
see him though again. Like,
Yeah.
I liked everything Brendan Fraser. was in.
Everything. Like, there wasn't a
I
bad
don't,
thing
I
that
don't
he
give
did.
a shit how cheesy it was. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, dude, like,
you
Super
know.
Monkey Bone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Super Monkey Bone, Encino Man.
Oh, dude, Encino
Yes.
Man was like that was the best one.
Yeah, that's
that was
one of my favorites.
bar none one of my favorites.
The Mummy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude.
Like, it was
I
great.
grew up with, like, George of the Jungle when he
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that,
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Journey to the Center
Dude,
of
that
the
was
Earth.
it was all great. It was all great.
It was all, yeah, no matter how bad or campy it was a classic no matter
And
what.
I feel like the campier, the better. I feel like he just lends really well to that sort of
yeah, absolutely.
characterization, you know. In wrestling and comic news, and this is brought to us by newsarama.com, we've got a Bruno Sammartino authorized comic book biography coming this month.
I am so
which is
excited.
Awesome. So, before he passed away, untimely and unexpectedly, Bruno approached Squared Circle Comics about preserving his legacy in comic book form, and he had completed interviews with writer and wrestling historian John Crowther, who did Rochelle from Antarctic Press, Nikolai the Genius Lanny Poffo. Is that Poffo?
Poffo.
Poffo. The Genius Lanny Poffo, the Killer Bees, and Bobby Fulton and the Fantastics from Squared Circle. From those in-depth discussions with the man himself, John crafted scripts for the comics. So this is going to be illustrated by Marvel and DC Comics veteran Rich Perrotta, who did Deadpool and The Ray. Bruno Sammartino is the authorized comic book biography of perhaps the most renowned professional wrestler in history of the industry. Holder of the WWF Heavyweight title for unparalleled runs from 63 to 71 and from 73 to 76. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013 and claims a string of absolutely amazing sellouts of the famous Madison Square Garden in New York City in the 70s. The comic tells us all those stories, but many more as well, including his family's plight in and escape from fascist Italy during the Second World War, the barriers he faced upon arriving in the United States, and the ways he used bodybuilding, weightlifting, and wrestling to overcome all of the things that he was going through. And yes, there was also that time he wrestled an orangutan.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. Bruno Sammartino was one of those wrestlers that looked like your dad. You know what I mean? Like he was big and buff or whatever, but he looked like
I don't know too much about him.
Bruno.
So
He
he was an older.
Well, and I mean that was more common back in those days. It wasn't until the McMahons kind of took charge in leading the wrestling industry into one and funneling it through one company. But, because at that point, then it was all about those huge, muscular, cut, like, bodybuilder dudes. But before that...
It was just
like,
anybody.
Anybody. Like, you could be out of shape as fuck.
Bob Backlund looked like a milkman.
Yeah, it was...
Like, honestly.
And he always had this little pooch. Like
like he looked like he worked out or whatever, but he just liked to drink. You know what I mean? And so
I feel like that's kind of how Sergeant Slaughter was.
Yeah,
too.
Sergeant Slaughter the same way. Like, and it was just like, and Bruno Sammartino, he was just like this typical Italian looking dude. Like he had the Mario mustache, and he was great in the ring. He was so fun to watch, especially because it's such an older era, and they were more like technical with like holds and like real wrestling moves and stuff. Like hardly ever any punches thrown or chairs or flying off and shit.
It was a different time.
It was. But speaking of wrestling, I wanted to add this wrestling news tonight, as of this recording, because we record the Saturday before. Tonight is Ring of Honor's All-In pay-per-view, and I just want to wish Cody Rhodes the absolute best.
Definitely.
All In is the first non-WWE pay-per-view to sell more than 10,000 seats.
No kidding.
Yeah, the WWE has this monopoly as far as wrestling is concerned. We had WCW, we had ECW, and the WWE pretty much absorbed both of them.
Right.
And for an indie promotion such as Ring of Honor, because you have Ring of Honor, you have New Japan Pro Wrestling, you have Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, you have like all of these indies that are fairly popular, but they don't have like the resources that a Vince McMahon would, or that
I was gonna say I've never heard of any of these.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I mean, if you take like the music industry for example, you want to get on a major label, right? Because that's when you can tell yourself you've made it, and so on and so forth. There are all these indie labels out there, and you can achieve really good success doing any of that type of stuff. You can achieve great success doing it yourself and not being on a label.
Okay.
But like, so all these wrestlers, while there are definitely plenty who have absolutely no desire to go to the WWE, and they never will, there are a ton of them who that's considered the pinnacle of the business. That's what you're going after, is to get hired by the WWE.
Okay.
Because that's the game. That is the only game in town that everybody knows.
To put it in cold terms, they're the UA of wrestling.
Okay. Makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like there are a bunch of other promotions. And all with very talented wrestlers.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And some wrestlers at the end of their WWE runs, if they're not happy with the WWE, they go fight. They go
like
wrestle.
Cody.
Yeah, like Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was the brother of Goldust. And they did this gimmick that he didn't like. It was called Stardust, and he was pretty much a Goldust copy. And
Stardust?
Yeah.
Dude, so I don't know if you know about this YouTuber, but his name's Jim Sterling. And he's got this whole play
on Stardust.
Oh, really?
He's like got his own like suit. He's like a really big dude, and he's got this play on the costume and everything, and he calls himself Stardust. And he's like calling out Stardust like every other episode. He's like,
Really?
You're a fake ass wrestler and all this shit.
Wow.
Oh, dude, I have to show you. It's awesome.
That's
It's
amazing.
really
That's
cool.
interesting.
Speaking of Stardust, I just love the whole. It wasn't very long from what I can remember, but the whole Stephen Amell Stardust
Yeah.
battle. Like,
Yeah.
And Stephen Amell will actually be appearing in the All In pay-per-view.
really?
Yeah. But yeah, so congratulations to Cody Rhodes, congratulations to Ring of Honor New Japan, who are both into it. But yeah, so I thought that was like way cool for an indie label to do the thing.
All right, and in PC gaming news brought to you by Polygon, Scum's Nazi tattoos have been removed from the game. If you're not familiar, I'm actually looking into getting this game myself, but it's a days-old survival title where players take on the role of inmates in a supermax prison. Those prisoners are also contestants on a reality-style TV program produced by the fictional TEC1 Megacore, who have pit them against each other in a high-stakes 64-player fight to the death. The game initially included Nazi imagery at launch, kind of going along with the whole prison theme. The offending images were part of a tattoo available only to those who purchased the supporter pack on Steam, the $9.99 supporter pack.
Wait, so that was a bonus that you got Nazi tattoos?
You get authenticity.
Well, it was I'm gonna guess it was just a pack-in, but that's really weird that you would include that in a paid. That's so.
And if you pay $9.99 now, you'll get the swastika.
Yeah, but they've been since removed. The publisher, Devolver Digital, has apologized, saying it is reviewing the game for similar imagery. They also have provided the following statement to Polygon. Developer Digital has been aware of tattoos resenting neo-Nazi symbology in the newly...
Symbolism.
Neo-Nazi symbology.
The word you were looking for is symbolism.
In the newly released prison survival simulation game Scum. We do not agree with use of this symbology or any hateful content, regardless of intention. The use of the tattoo was intended to assist in portraying a realistic element of prison culture and the horrid elements within it. The content has been patched out as of this morning, and Devolver Digital are currently conducting a full review of all assets and content in the game with GamePires. We strongly condemn any and all use of hateful symbology in our games and agree it should never have been in the game, regardless of creative intent or realism. Devolver Digital apologizes unreservedly.
I think, I don't know, like...
I see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I see where they're coming from, but in the same vein, like, this is prison. You know what I mean? Like, you want it to be as realistic as possible. And, with them saying regardless of creative intent or realism, like, that's what they were going for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if not, they wouldn't have put that in there in the first place, using that symbology.
I mean, because it's not like some developer was like, I'll just put this little
See,
in
and that's,
like,
that's where I have very strong opinions about this, because I hate it. I hate it when companies issue apologies to super incredibly petty shit like this. Like, I hate the idea that we have to pander to people. It's like, yeah, it's a prison. Guess what? People in prison have Nazi...
You know who go to prison? Nazis.
Guess what? People who are in prison are shitty people.
Shocker.
So they probably
Shocker.
have shitty ideals.
I hate it when companies do this, and I'll touch on this point when there's more of a potent topic. But yeah, I don't understand this, because it's like Germany just barely, they just barely relinquished their point on this, where it's like the new Wolfenstein, there was Nazi imagery everywhere, because of course you're killing Nazis in a Wolfenstein game. So it's like Germany was like, they were very against that. They're like, hey, you know what, we can't, we got to sweep this under the rug as much as we can. But it just barely came out. It was in the news a couple weeks ago that they're like, you know what, it's free speech.
Well, I mean, when I was in Germany, because I was in Germany in 1998, so I mean, not even a decade after the wall came down, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, you've got your museums, your Holocaust museums, and all that type of stuff. But then you've also got, there are plenty of people who just pretend that none of that ever happened.
Which, I mean, like, I can
And I get
understand that. Yeah, I can understand
I get
that,
it, but like, yeah, it's, I feel like all that's going to do is just, I mean, sweeping something under the rug doesn't make it so that it didn't happen.
Yeah,
exactly. I just
going to uncover it later.
Yeah.
I don't understand this.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't understand taking this out. I mean, I understand that there is a certain amount of people out there that do take offense to this, but
Right.
it's also just a pixelated image. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just, that's my ignorant opinion about it, but I don't understand it. And I'll never understand why companies have to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
There's well, besides the Nazi tattoos, there's one other thing that wanted me to get this game. There's from what I was watching like developer videos, because it's a game in early access right now, so you pay, it's like $20, you get the game, and then you have that game for when it releases and at a full price. And so you can play it until the actual game gets released. But I was watching a little developer video on it, and he was talking about how in this game you can essentially layer clothing to have different effects.
Huh.
So like, you know, different weather conditions come up, you can put on like different amounts of clothing to
Like Breath of the Wild stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's so many things that you have to watch in the game too. Like it's got like realism that I haven't seen in a game that just sounds like another battle royale game.
Right. And I heard that the map doesn't shrink.
No.
As far as this, like, 'cause mostly with the battle royale games, the map shrinks.
Which is like a prominent part of those
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, yeah.
What makes them so intense.
Because you can't leave the whole map open for everybody just
Yeah.
running around, you know.
That's interesting.
So I think it allows for more like casual gaming.
And it's like it says, it's only 64 players. It's not 100. So
Yeah. So at the end of it all, I'm sure you'll find your way into the middle or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay. I don't know. You'll hear me talk about this more because I find myself getting more and more frustrated with the amount of pandering that they're doing. It's like we literally have games where you're bashing people's brains in.
Yeah.
But we can't have a picture of something that happened so long ago. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But, on a happier note, in other gaming news brought to you by GameSpot, the new PS4 Spider-Man game length is confirmed by Insomniac. Insomniac Games community director James Stevenson has revealed that the PS4 Spider-Man takes about 20 hours to beat, which is pretty reasonable.
Oh, God, yeah.
Why is anyone mad about this? I feel like that is
you can
the
blow
bar.
through a Call of Duty campaign in like
Are people
7
mad
to 8
about
hours.
that?
Yeah, they were
People are very upset about
And
this.
it's just, I'm like, are you
Go
serious?
fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
Stevenson unveiled the number when answering an inquisitive player's question on Twitter. It's worth noting that 20 hours is the average taken for multiple playtesters. Stevenson wrote that 20 hours is about how long it takes for someone to beat the Spider-Man on default difficulty and only when completing some side quests and activities.
So it's not even like every side quest
No.
or
Yeah.
every activity.
Well, I mean, I'm running into the same thing because all of the reviews for Dragon Quest are pouring in right now, and they're like, yeah, it'll take you about 70 hours to beat, just base game. But, you know, if you want to do everything, it's over 100. And for some reason, people like to hear that. I don't, because it's like,
I mean,
the last
then
time I
it's just-
did 100 hours in a video game was Persona 5, and I'm sorry, I love that game. It was my favorite game last year, but I do not want to
I
do
mean,
that
that just
again.
sounds so arduous.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, at that point, you're
That's too
you're
much.
grinding
It's
to
too
grind.
much.
You're-
Yeah.
You know.
Because what is Kingdom Hearts saying? Like 80 hours or something
50,
like that?
50 to 60.
Okay.
Which is... I can't talk about Kingdom Hearts because I'm going to be 100% biased. I want as much of that game
Yeah.
in my eyeballs as
Yeah.
possible. So if they were to come out and say it was 500 hours, I'd be like, it's too
Gimme.
small. It's too small.
only 500?
yeah, I can't talk about Kingdom Hearts in an unbiased fashion.
No, and I love that. I love that it's, just 20 hours with some quests and activities. So
Yeah.
I'm sure like real gameplay is close to
Oh yeah, I mean,
probably
if
30.
if you're a completionist, you're gonna have
Eat your heart
no
out.
problem
Yeah.
making that game so much longer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big collectible kind of guy. I just like to sit down and, a lot of people make fun of me for this because they're like, you haven't completed the game until you platinumed it. And it's like, I'm not going to platinum this game unless I absolutely freaking love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I platinumed 2 games in my life, and it's Final Fantasy VII and The Last of Us. And each one of them was a complete blast to play.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's so dumb. Like, and not only that, also in Spider-Man news, people are taking. I gotta try and figure out how to say this without sounding as stupid as it really is. People are upset about the puddle size. In
Puddle size?
Puddle size. When the first gameplay was announced at E3 2017, they had a fluffed up gameplay segment where it's like, developers hate this shit. They hate it when it's E3 time and they've got to take a chunk out of the game and show it off to people because it's just a lot of time. Because you gotta fluff that thing up. You gotta make it look really good. So people are upset with the puddle size, and what that basically means is a lot of people are crying graphical downgrade.
Oh god.
So if you've kind of been in the know, like Witcher got caught up in this. The Witcher, The Division, and I think the most notable one is Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
Watch Dogs came out and made a huge splash at E3. And everyone was like, oh my god, this is the game. This is the game to be. Like, this game's going to be Grand Theft Auto. Like, look how good it looks. And then it comes out and it looks like a steaming pile of shit. So, I don't know. I've looked at, screenshots and everything. And it's like, and there is a noticeable difference. But, Insomniac Games, they've come out and they're like, you know what? It's lighting. Like, you're in a different area. Like, we have dynamic lighting everywhere. Like, there's a day and night system. Like, we have a weather system. Like, just because you're in this part and it didn't rain the day before, like, that's the difference in puddle size, you know? And I'm just sitting here going, like, this is what developers have to deal with.
Yeah, like are you really crying because you can't see puddles, bro? Like,
it's a real thing. It's and people are genuinely concerned. They're like, oh, not my Spider-Man game and all this shit. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't understand.
It's just we're never fucking satisfied.
Never.
Never.
This is like literally the Spider-Man game that everyone has wanted.
Dude, I'm gonna cry the day that this game comes out.
I swear, dude, I am such a fan of Spider-Man games. The only Spider-Man games that I haven't played are like the super old ones for like the Atari, the Nintendo, the Game Boy.
Yep.
But like,
I wish I still had my Tiger one.
The Tiger Electronics.
Yeah.
I wanted to play, and I never got the chance to play Shattered Dimensions. Spider-Man.
I didn't get to either.
Yeah, and that's like that whole Spider-Verse thing is my favorite thing as far as the Spider-Man comics are concerned, with like Spider-Man 2099 and Noir, Spider-Man Noir, and it's I saw a video of the Noir gameplay, and even like now I'm just like, oh, that's so fucking cool because
that's PS3 and Xbox 360, right?
Yes. Okay. And I went and I tried to look for I tried to buy one on for the PC or whatever.
Yeah.
And these things are like treasures now.
Well, even in ensemble games like Ultimate Alliance too, like Spider-Man was always my favorite fucking character to play, regardless.
Yes. Of course, even like Marvel vs. Capcom. I loved playing Spider-Man in Marvel vs. Capcom. But yeah, that was crazy. That's crazy. I don't understand people sometimes.
If I could be blunt,
yeah,
quit being a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Like, if the game's not good enough for you, go make your own fucking game.
Right, exactly.
Speaking of not being good enough, Battlefield 5 got delayed.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Ironically enough.
Make the game you want.
This is no, I don't think it's a matter of making the game. This is 100% Big Corp was like, you know what, we gotta fix this shit. So basically what happened was it was originally placed square right in the middle of. So 1 week you had Call of Duty at the end of the week. Then you had Battlefield 5 at the end of the week the next week. And then after that, you had at the end of the week Red Dead Redemption 2. The thing was going to get slaughtered.
Gotcha.
Buried. Straight buried.
And so they've only delayed it a month. It comes out in November instead, and I believe it comes out a week after Pokemon.
Oh.
So I feel like that's going to be the title of November. And I feel like this is an incredibly smart move for me.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
No, obviously.
They
like
finally pulled their head out of their ass.
You know, though, if you pay the extra $100, you can get it in October.
Oh.
Get out. Are you serious? Oh, you can. I was like, what?
As a microtransaction.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, really?
I just it's EA. Like I could
Yeah.
imagine
You never
EA
know.
doing that
Yeah.
shit. Like that's that could be a joke to other people, but that's a genuine question.
You know, like if by some insanely weird coincidence somebody from EA was listening to this, they would be like, "Oh my god, that's a fucking great idea.
That's brilliant.
We need to do that."
It'll happen, and I'll be like, oh, come on!
yeah.
then you can sue.
Xbox fans have a little bit to look forward to. The Master Chief Collection finally got the patch that it deserves. It is a whopping 73 gigabytes.
Jesus.
It's not the patch you need right now.
And you know,
The patch you deserve.
I skimmed through the notes, and it's basically just a bunch of UI touch-ups and stuff, but it seems like they finally fixed that game. You know, and that was actually the game that made me buy an Xbox One, because I was like, it's every Halo.
That came with the Xbox One that I bought, like a digital download.
Still salty about that. I was like, I really want the disc. Like the
That
case
game,
of the
it
disc,
took me
but
like 3 days to download it, but it was worth the wait.
That's why it's so crazy that it's 73 gigs, is because that game is already a massive install.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you might want to delete a couple games just to be able to play Halo again.
I did that today with my PlayStation. I deleted like a bunch of games, like because Spider-Man's coming out next Friday.
Yep.
Gotta get ready.
Gotta get ready.
I'll shoot you a link of the hard drive that I use. It's a 2 terabyte, and you just plug it into the back, and
Really?
yeah, it's a lifesaver. I
Yeah,
love
because
that thing.
I've taken up the whole terabyte of mine.
So yours is the terabyte.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a terabyte in mine and 2 on top of that, and I've filled up the 2 before.
Oh shit! Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I got nothing.
Well, I don't have shit.
I play a game.
Yeah. I actually had to do the same thing for my Switch. All of a sudden, and I think I have a 64 chip in there. 64 gig chip, and I was like, this sucks. I hate, because that's like one of my things that I love is like going through all my games that I have on there, and I'm like, remember when they said that you only had Zelda and Mario to play? It's like, no, there's so much more.
At the time, maybe.
I need me a Switch. I need to get one bad.
Yeah, you do. The Switch is so cool, dude. You can also look forward to Modern Warfare 2. Is now backwards compatible
For the Xbox One.
Yes. Eat your heart out.
Yeah. Get in there.
I don't know. I mean, this seems like to me that the remaster is dead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see... I mean, Modern Warfare 1 is backwards compatible on Xbox, and we still got one, but I don't. It sounds like they pretty much just took it out back and shot it. I don't see that happening at all. And not only that, people were wildly pissed off that it didn't include the campaign. It was just the multiplayer. So, I don't know. I know a lot of people love that game a lot, but it's one of the weaker ones for me.
By the way, you teased me, Eddie, with that fucking Underground 2 video.
Oh, yeah.
Because like the second I saw that, I was like, remaster. Oh.
I found this video because if you guys remember last week, we talked about Need for Speed Underground 2, and like maybe it was like 2 days ago, I saw a video of someone who had modded it with modern graphics, and it looked so fucking pretty.
Yeah, I got so excited.
And I tagged him in it, like, hey, look at this, and thinking that he would know or whatever, and he was just like, oh my god, they're making a remaster, I can't believe it. And then when he realized it.
I was I just grabbed myself a bottle of wine, and I was just very depressed for days.
Some dark chocolate.
Some chocolate.
And then we got some glorious ass gameplay of a little game, you might know it. Cyberpunk 2077.
Woo!
Yeah!
Oh, this game looks so good. Oh.
Titties.
So, for the uninformed, this is the newest game coming from CD Projekt Red. They are the same people who brought you The Witcher 3.
Yeah,
and can do no wrong.
that game looks amazing.
It does. It looks so good.
You know, when I was watching that, I immediately thought of you because I was like, this is 100% futuristic Fallout.
Yeah, no, I love that shit. I love dystopian future type games. Like, I'll play the shit out of all. That's why I loved Rage, Borderlands. I loved all of those games because I don't know, something about dystopian futures really dig, and it even transfers into like movies. Like I love like The Fifth Element is like in the top 10 favorite movies of all time, and
Mad Max.
I love
Runner.
Movies like that. Those are all just like so cool to me. Yeah. Just because I've always, I don't know, for some reason I feel like I'd thrive in that kind of environment as a person.
You know,
well, you might find out here pretty soon.
Yeah, let's do it.
You know, The Witcher 3 is the only game that I can look at and say that's not possible on older consoles. Mm-mm. And that's why I like to say that, you know, The Witcher 3 is the only truly next gen game that we've gotten. You know, like the graphics and everything are constantly improving, and these things are, you know, the PS3 and whatever, you know, they were nowhere near able to output this, but the CD Projekt Red went above and beyond and was like, you know what, we're gonna break every trope of an RPG. You know, have you played The Witcher 3?
I have.
Oh my god,
I've played some of it. I honestly, see, The Witcher is a fantastic game. I won't take anything from The Witcher. It just never kept my attention.
Okay, no, that's fair because it's heavy with like the lore and the medieval stuff and yeah, I could see how someone could get turned off on it, but I had no stock in this company at all, and these games. You know, these games have been around forever.
They really have.
Like the first one was like a huge PC title. Yeah, and it's I believe it's only available on PC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no other way.
I have it. I have that and Witcher 2 on PC.
I am like 100% ignorant when it comes to Witcher.
That game is on sale right now. You should.
Is it
the complete edition with like the asinine amount of DLC that came with it? Dude,
they're like separate games.
They really are.
I was so to have bought Titanfall when I did. Because I honestly, I never gave those titles a second look. Like, I was like, oh, that game? Okay, whatever. Like, I fucking bought Titanfall 2 just this week. I already finished the campaign.
Isn't it awesome just to have this little piecemeal campaign, just to jump in, enjoy the hell out of it, and you know what? Now you're on to your next game.
Yeah, and the campaign wasn't that big. I think it was like 3-4 hours or whatever.
It wasn't bad.
But it was good. You know what I mean? Like, there are games that have that short of a campaign that suck.
And it's not like they, you know, were like, oh, there was no campaign in the first Titanfall, and they just threw one on there and it sucked. It was a good, legitimate campaign.
They really did, dude. Yeah. They made me fall in love with that BT character.
I don't know if you did you play the first Titanfall?
No, I didn't.
First Titanfall was rad.
It was good. It just was missing that campaign.
Yeah, see, and that's what I did. I just jumped in the campaign, finished it in like 2 or 3 days. Yeah, and I was so like enamored with it.
You know, and it makes me sad because I don't think you're gonna see Titanfall 3.
That sucks.
I really don't. And, you know, even if we do, it's not going to have that same level of love and care put into a campaign. Like, dude, they were doing so many different things with that campaign, like that time dimension stuff. Oh, my God.
Dude, that whole time shift shit, that was fucking cool, dude.
And the parkour segments inside of that giant factory. Like on this assembly line, and you're just, like, trying to make your way.
So, the other thing... like, what is this, some Prince of Persia shit? Like, what's...
It's more Call of Duty has wanted to be this forever.
Oh,
basically.
Okay.
So
yeah, dude. It's okay. So like,
it's more. This is where we got Call of Duty. This is where we got our wall running from.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Call of Duty was never able to copy it to the same level of like fluidity of why Titanfall is so good, in my opinion. That, you know, a lot of people. It's so funny because if you go to this the Black Ops 4 reveal event, and they had this segment where it was like, so who in here wants wall running? And everyone's like, no, you know. you gotta watch it. It's so funny, dude.
And that game is just amazing. Like, the elements of that game, like, it's part Gundam, part Lost Planet, part Mirror's Edge, part, you know, anything else. Like,
another thing I enjoyed about the game is when I play a game, I am pretty big into like dialogue, and I loved how when you guys were talking to each other in the beginning of the game, and you would make a smart-ass remark to BT, and BT would take it super literal, much like Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, like there's I think it's like the second level or whatever where BT's like, yeah, I know a shortcut, and he ends up getting picked up by that assembly line or whatever, and then in the third one, at the beginning of the third level, he's like, don't get captured, BT, and BT's like, I will refrain from any further shortcuts.
Or there's another, I remember where he's they're talking, and you're like, one of the dialogue options, because you only get like 2 to choose from. It's not like Mass Effect, but one of the options was like to say, do you miss me, do you miss me or whatever? And BT's like, I am not authorized to shoot at you, or something like that.
Yeah. It's so good.
It's like, I'm not authorized to have human emotions or something.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah, that game is truly underrated.
So, question of the week answers. What were your favorite X-Men from the animated series? Brandon Rogers says, all I know is that Cyclops cries like 90% of the time.
Yep.
But Archangel, post-apocalypse, was a G. And
Dude, he was fucking amazing.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, I like Archangel, period, anyway.
Yeah.
But Four Horsemen Archangel was fucking
I was
insane.
so unbelievably let down at Archangel's appearance in the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
He really was.
Like, at the very end, he just comes in, scoops her up, and then you're just like, wait, is that it?
So,
Like,
I have a question about this. So, I've seen those movies, but it was so long ago that I don't really remember. Didn't one of the movies start off with this Archangel character getting his wings ripped off?
Yeah.
And it's like super dark, and
Yeah.
it like reminded me of Aliens for some reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that's the same character.
That's the same
Okay.
character, yep.
And then this Apocalypse character is
He's-
the same one of the new movies,
Yes,
right?
mhm, yep.
He like almost kind of has this like Thanos.
Yeah,
ability,
he pretty much is like the
but he's
Thanos.
like nowhere near in the show.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Apocalypse in like the comic books and the movies, he's the very first mutant. He is he is like pretty much the patient zero. Like back in time,
Okay.
he was the mutant that started it all pretty much. So he considers all mutants around the world his children.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was cool. Stanton Meats says, I was all about Wolverine and Gambit growing up. Scott from the Learning the Ropes podcast, he says Jubilee, just gave us a nice little Jubilee gif. Justin Peterson, a.k.a. Weird Sense, shout out. Wolverine, of course. David Rhodes said Gambit. Rory Costello said Sabretooth. Glenn Cuff said, probably Beast or Wolverine. Our very own Derek Reese says Wolverine, Gambit, and Archangel. My favorite was always Gambit, and it was merely just because of the way he talked.
Gambit's cool. He's
Yeah,
fun
I
as
mean,
well.
as long as he didn't lose the accent in the middle of his sentence.
I also loved Gambit, but in the cartoon, I also loved Wolverine because he had the best fucking one-liners.
Oh,
ever.
bar none.
So good.
My favorite line of his that just made me like, oh, this guy's a badass, was always like, I go where I wanna go.
Oh yeah,
That was a good Wolverine, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, dude, that was like,
Bub.
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. He's like the most surly Canadian ever, and it's fucking amazing and so great.
and-
It's so funny. We talk about briefly about the Pride of the X-Men, the pilot, where he was Australian
Yeah,
for
he
some
was.
reason.
It was the most insane thing. Like
What?
it
She
was-
can fight, but
it
it
was-
doesn't mean she's an X-Man.
What?
whoever
hell?
made the cartoon seems to not have known that,
Yeah.
but they apparently knew he was international. They knew he wasn't from the U.S., so they just picked a place,
Yeah.
called it good, and
It's like the same dude that did the Pyro voice for that cartoon did the Wolverine voice.
Exactly. It's like, but it's so bad. Like, just knowing better, it completely takes you out of the whole thing. You're just like, what in the fuck is going on here?
The fucked up part about all of that is I would have loved to have seen a Pride of X-Men series.
Yeah.
See, it was so weird to me. It was so weird to me, like, especially because right off the bat, so you know how you have that Stan Lee voiceover? What he was saying, or more of how he was saying it, seemed completely contrary to why the X-Men was created.
Yeah.
Like the comic was created. Because, like, when he's doing the voiceover, he's talking about there are good mutants and there are bad mutants, and and he seemed kind of ominous about it.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because the X-Men was born of the civil rights movement, you know?
Yeah.
And it was all about, like, hey, let's figure out how to coexist. But this voiceover sounded like, you watch out for those fucking bad mutants, though, because, oh my god, man. Like, it sounded really ominous.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So, let's get to the topic of the week after an hour. The X-Men animated series.
So, the X-Men is a team of fictional superheroes appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. Created by writer Stan Lee and artist co-writer Jack Kirby, the characters first appeared in the X-Men 1 in September of '63. They are among the most recognizable and successful intellectual properties of Marvel Comics. I mean, they're basically the mascots, if you want to think of them that way. Mm-hmm. They appeared in... They are the staple. They've appeared in numerous books, shows, films, video games. You name it, they're fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere without...
Absolutely.
Like, even if nobody knew anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Marvel Comics, like the X-Men?
Yeah, if you are the most absolutely nerd-deficient person ever, you fucking know who the X-Men are.
My
It's
dad is
unavoidable.
a huge X-Men fan.
Oh,
Really?
dude, I love the X-Men.
That's awesome.
He loves the movies. He's not like huge into comics, but
so
he loves...
He's a bastardized X-Men
He
fan.
could be.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like they handled the movies the best they possibly could?
Oh, heavens, no.
I've always felt like the movies
Wait,
were
which movies? The Singer movies or...
The Singer movies are
That's the one with... like
those
cute-
need to be shot into space.
Like the first...
Like Halle Berry.
like,
Okay,
what
you
is
know
the
what?
The first
something?
three, yeah. Yeah,
and
the first
and
three.
I will take a stand, an X-Men Last Stand, to say
Get out.
Halle Berry was bar none one of the worst parts of those films.
And she played...
She can't do superheroes.
She played Storm. I mean, she's been good in other things, but
that's
like
right.
watching her play Storm is the most painful fucking experience
I'd rather watch
you can ever
Catwoman.
have cinematically.
Yeah, seriously.
And yeah, I mean, she is the most god-awful actor when it comes to these type of movies, which is weird because she does fine in other movies.
Yeah, not to say
Phenomenal
she's
actor.
terrible. She's great in
Yeah.
other stuff.
So
It's just-
Storm is... And correct me if I'm wrong, but Storm is the one that has like trouble with her powers.
That's
right?
Rogue.
Like,
Well, I mean,
Rogue.
They all to an extent, you know, like you don't have a thing to overcome.
But
if
when you
don't
watch
have,
the movies, Rogue is the young one that, like, she
Saps.
can't touch anybody.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
but
And so most of the X-Men are mutants, which is a subspecies of humans that are born with superhuman abilities activated by the X gene. They fight for peace and equality between normal humans and mutants, both in a world where anti-mutant bigotry is fierce and widespread. Sounds familiar. They are led by Charles Xavier, also known as Professor X, who's a powerful mutant telepath. He can control and read minds of people as well as mutants. Their arch enemy is named Magneto. He's a powerful mutant with the ability to manipulate and control metal, magnetic fields, and stuff like that. They both have opposing views and philosophies regarding the relationship between mutants and humans. They were actually both, colleagues in school?
Yeah, they were both colleagues.
Yeah, they were both colleagues at one point, and they kind of drifted apart because of their differences. While the former works towards peace and understanding between mutants and humans, the latter views humans as a threat and believes in taking an aggressive approach against them, even though he's found himself working alongside the X-Men from time to time.
It's so crazy, like, watching these cartoons and still having that sense of, you know what I mean, like the whole civil rights thing.
well,
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
because I mean,
absolutely.
it's clear, abundantly clear that you've got Professor X as MLK Jr. and then you've got Magneto as Malcolm X.
Absolutely.
I mean, like that's what it is. You can't see anything other than that.
Absolutely.
You know, and is you know the less educated member of this conversation, those are kind of the moments that I found the most compelling.
Right.
Was between the banter between Magneto and Professor X.
Yeah, because I
And
mean,
just
those are like base, like
They're
those
like
are,
frenemies.
Yeah.
Like,
like those are base emotions. Like those are things that apply to like you can't misunderstand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you don't agree with, one side or the other, even if you're like, no, we need to take forceful action.
Yeah.
Like, you can still absolutely understand where Professor X is coming from.
And it's really kind of cool because you look at Professor X and he's in a wheelchair. Like, is he like paralyzed?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a paraplegic.
So you look at him and you think, oh, he's weak. He's a weak character. But then there's that moment in the show where Magneto's causing all kinds of destruction, and he's Professor X like gets in his mind. He's like, "Oh my god, I don't want to remember that." And I'm like, "Holy shit, this guy's the shit."
And
he's powerful.
If you get into the comics, there's a whole fucking other deal with the fucking, what's the psychic realm called? I'm blanking.
Oh,
the astral plane.
Yeah, the astral plane.
So the astral plane, where he projects, like, him and multiple characters fight on this astral plane.
Yeah.
And Professor X is just this fucking powerhouse, and it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's just incredible.
Like the way you saw Magneto just fucking shit up in the cartoon.
Yeah.
That's Professor X in the astral plane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, he just fucking dominates.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, he is just the man that people see and go, I'm gonna call it a day. I'm going
So
home.
he's
I'm heading home.
he's got a name for himself.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Professor X is one of the most powerful mutants as far as the X-Men world is concerned.
Right.
Like, as far as genetically, like, metahuman type people.
Because there's a rating system, and there's a mutant that is around who can, like, she can discern how powerful mutants are. And so, like, Magneto is definitely up there. Professor X is up there. Like, a whole bunch of them. So, yeah,
Jean Grey.
he is top fucking tier, especially Phoenix Jean Grey. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like how when I was younger growing up watching the X-Men, I like that they introduced the fact that, because I was always like, that's a weird helmet that Magneto wears, and I found out it blocks out Professor X completely, and I was like, oh my god.
Okay.
Unless it's the X-Men cartoon.
Unless it's the X-Men cartoon.
Unless it's the cartoon, yeah.
Okay, cool. A little backstory. Professor X is the founder of Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters at a location commonly called the X Mansion, which I loved the little nods in Deadpool.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. The X Mansion, which recruits mutants from around the world, located in Salem Center in Westchester County, New York. The X Mansion is the home and training site of the X-Men. The founding 5 members of the X-Men who appear in the X-Men #1 September 1963 edition are Angel or Archangel, Beast, Cyclops, Iceman, and Marvel Girl, who's also Jean Grey. Professor X and Magneto also made their first appearances in the X-Men #1. Since then, dozens of mutants from various countries and diverse backgrounds have held membership as X-Men.
X-Men, also known as X-Men the Animated Series, is an American animated television series which debuted on October 31st, 1992 in the United States on the Fox network as part of its Fox Kids Saturday morning lineup. X-Men was Marvel Comics' second attempt at the animated X-Men TV series after the pilot, X-Men Pride of the X-Men, was not picked up. I wish that they would have kept the animation from Pride of the X-Men.
You know, I liked them both. I thought the animation for both was great. I am so glad, though, that god-awful theme was left behind.
Because
that was just straight 80s. That was a straight 80s cartoon theme.
Here come the X-Men!
and tell me, I mean, is there any song in this world that from, like, note 1, as soon as that music drops, that gets you as hyped as the X-Men theme song?
Absolutely.
Like, that shit, I'm just like, let's do this! Yeah, let's go! You know, it's like,
fight!
But anyway.
Fuck you, Magneto!
Okay, so the show features X-Men similar in look and lineup to the early 90s X-Men drawn by Jim Lee, specifically Cyclops' Blue Team, established in the early issues of X-Men Legacy. The team is composed of Cyclops, Wolverine, Rogue, Storm, Beast, Gambit, Jubilee, Jean Grey, Professor X, of course, as well as an original character, Morph, which is an adaptation of previous X-Men character, Changeling. Like, I liked Morph, and it made me very sad that, like, immediately he is fucked the fuck up.
Yeah, and it's crazy, like, in the second season, Morph returns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
So yeah, you think he's dead that whole time.
Yeah, and
Right.
so he returns, and he is just on this like vengeful war path, and it like the story of it makes you want to like give him a hug.
Right? Yeah.
It's just like, no, everything's okay, Morph. Like, I'm sorry that they left you, but it was for a good reason.
Because yeah, it was basically one of those like, you fucking just left me to the wolves, and fuck
okay.
you, I'm going to murder every one of you.
Okay.
Next is the principal cast.
So first we've got probably one of the most notable characters, Cyclops, or his name, Scott Summers. He's the second in command and field commander of the X-Men. He possesses the ability to fire concussive blasts from his eyes. If you've seen the X-Men movies, he is wearing sunglasses and he can't take them off or else the lasers will shoot out automatically. And he and Jean Grey are in a long-standing relationship and actually get married at the end of the final season.
Probably the even more known character, Wolverine, real name Logan, a mutant with regenerative healing factor, heightened senses, and an adamantium-laced skeleton that renders his bones virtually indestructible, and retractable claws capable of cutting virtually anything. He was attracted to Jean, but decided not to come between her and Scott.
And by the way, the real name should be in quotes.
Yes.
It's gone back and forth. His origin story has always been...
What was it, like James Howlett or something like
James
that?
Howlett.
James
Yeah.
Howlett. Like, it's always been an unknown. It's always been something he's tried to figure out. It's always something he's gotten multiple stories on.
Okay.
Like, it's always been really crazy.
One thing that I want to point out, I went and saw Logan. As, you know, not a fan or
Right.
anything. You know, like, I've seen kind of the terrible X-Men, or not the X-Men movies, but the Wolverine movies.
Wolverine
like the last,
origin was fucking horrible. Like,
which is the one where they go to Japan?
that was...
the Wolverine.
Yeah, that was...
Man, I had a hard time staying awake. That thing was so bad.
That was probably the worst out of all the Wolverine movies.
Yeah, I
mean,
don't know what it
like,
was. But
you know, nothing can trump the Deadpool in origin, though. Like, to
Well, I
me,
mean, yeah, but I mean,
that was such a slap in the motherfucking face.
Which was
that-
so cool at the end of Deadpool 2.
Oh, I know.
When he goes back and he shoots.
Oh, you guys are
Weapon
talking about
X.
the Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mouth, like, sewed shut and fucking scarred over
which
and whatever.
they did that because he's a smartass, right? And, like,
Yeah.
he doesn't know how to shut up, so
Yeah.
they're like, we're gonna shut you up.
But in addition, they attributed all these random... like, they shoved all these random things into him, like adamantium fucking swords coming out, and
he looks like shit.
And Cyclops' eye beams.
Yeah.
And, like, that was not Deadpool. That was just some random amalgam of shit. And it was just
the
horrid.
disrespect to the Deadpool
Exactly.
fans, I can't even imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know of the veracity of this, but from what I've read somewhere at some point was that the only reason Ryan Reynolds agreed to that is if they would let him make Deadpool.
I've actually
I
read
didn't know
that too.
And so, like, I feel like that was kind of the, you know, taking one for the team moment of, you know what? If you give me 100% authorization to do it right, I will totally do this right now. You know?
Can we just say that Ryan Reynolds is a
gem.
is a gift from God?
He is a gem, and we should all,
Like, how
I've started.
perfect is he for Deadpool?
I just pray to Ryan Reynolds now. I don't. Like, he's
Yeah.
in the name of Ryan Reynolds, amen.
So next we come to Rogue. She possesses the uncontrollable ability to absorb the memories, powers, and energy of those she touches. However, if Rogue holds on to someone too long, their consciousness will be trapped in her subconscious. She has permanently absorbed the superhuman strength, durability, and flight of Miss Marvel, and Miss Marvel was left comatose due to this.
Yeah, so Rogue she didn't possess the ability to fly. She sapped that through Miss Marvel.
That's actually a point when I was watching.
That's why
in
you
bed
don't
this
see
morning.
her like flying around and shit in the
movies.
I was
Right.
like, can everybody fly? I was
Now-
like, is this DBZ up in here? or
Now,
what?
so here's the thing, and I don't know if you remember this on the animated series, but when she, well, I was going to say kisses, but when she gives CPR to Cyclops, she took on his powers, but she didn't hold that link for too long to where it was only temporary. But with Miss Marvel, it was such a traumatic thing that she held on to her for longer. And if I remember right, I think it was during some big battle that they had, that it made Miss Marvel comatose, and she permanently has this power of flight now because it was a much lengthier contact.
That makes sense.
And then we come to one of my favorite X-Men, Beast, whose real name is Dr. Henry or Hank McCoy. His mutation covers his entire body in fur and morphs his body, granting him superhuman strength and the agility to complement his genius mind. He spends the first season imprisoned for destroying the government's records of registered mutants, which was being abused by Gyrick and Trask. Buza would later appear in a small role in the 2000 live-action film, playing a truck driver at the start of the film.
And Buza is the guy that plays his voice.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Gambit, which is actually my favorite mutant. His real name is Remy LeBeau, right? Okay. He can charge virtually any object with an explosive energy, turning them into bombs. They only explode once he lets go of the object. He also wields a staff for close combat. Original voice actor Chris Potter was cast while filming Kung Fu, The Legend Continues in Toronto. Although Potter was unfamiliar with the X-Men, his co-star David Carradine was a big fan of the comics. Potter later auditioned for the role of Cyclops in the 2000 film.
And so then we come to Jubilee, real name Jubilation Lee, the newest and youngest member of the X-Men. She is close to Wolverine. She is still getting used to her powers, which are the ability to generate firework-like explosions.
Sparkle!
Allison Court and Cathal Dodd had been neighbors when Court was still a child, and Dodd was already a well-known actor in Canada. Court attributes their characters' chemistry to being previously acquainted with one another. Originally, another voice actor had been cast as Jubilee, but Court was cast as the original voice and was deemed too sweet and innocent sounding for the role.
I want to just say I fucking love Jubilee. Like,
I was never a fan.
I thought she was awesome.
I think she's
and
charming.
I would have loved to see her in a movie. Like, I'm not going to stray away from that. I would have liked to see that.
So she wasn't in any of the movies?
No.
I mean, like, I never understood it because they are, like, Dazzler existed, and that's basically what Jubilee is.
So maybe they kind of got around that, like, here's what you get.
So, and then we come to Jean Grey / the Phoenix at times. She is a telekinetic and a telepath. Has a long-standing relationship with Cyclops, as we mentioned. They marry at the end of final season. And then we also have Professor X, of course, Charles Xavier, who is the founder and leader of the X-Men and a powerful telepath who sometimes goes a little overboard.
Not mentioned was my personal favorite, Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Yeah, Nightcrawler is one of
He's
my
the monkey
absolute
type guy,
favorites.
right?
He can teleport anywhere. Anywhere that he sees.
Based on sight line.
Yeah, he has line of sight teleportation.
Yeah, and he was German. He was in a circus, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want to put this in that moment when Wolverine is laying full costume in his bed and he gets the picture. It's the picture of John and what's his name, Cyclops, and it's the meme of him I laughed pretty hard. I was like, why is he in full costume?
Yeah, it's so funny.
Also, I just have to say, like, on Nightcrawler, I absolutely loved Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler.
Yeah, I really did. Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler was actually...
It was great. I mean, that was a garbage film, but he was great.
He really did shine.
And same thing with Toad.
Yeah.
Ray Park played Toad, who also played Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Who was an actual legitimate martial artist.
He is amazing.
He's so good.
And that's why he played Darth Maul, because the actor who was supposed to play Darth Maul couldn't fucking hack it. Because Ray Park was the one who was teaching him how to do all the sword fighting.
No kidding.
Yeah. And he couldn't hack it, and so eventually Ray Park got the role instead.
Okay.
So
I always
really
kind of
cool
figured
shit.
it was because Ray Park couldn't like act.
Yeah, no.
Like his voice, like he couldn't. And I was like, I was always curious about that because I remember, he only does the choreograph, and that's it.
Yeah, but he was great.
Yeah,
he was great as Toad.
Ray Park is awesome, and I've met him at Comic-Con, and he's just a rad fucking dude.
And I honestly thought Kelsey Grammer was awesome as Beast.
Yes, yes.
Yep. Because I mean, that's what Beast is. He's a soft-spoken intellectual, regardless of his size. You know, he's a soft-spoken intellectual, and that was the perfect person to play it.
It was also cool to just watch Frasier kick ass.
Yeah.
The series deals with social issues, including divorce in the episode Proteus, Christianity in Nightcrawler and Bloodlines, the Holocaust in Enter Magneto, Deadly Reunions, and Days of Future Past, and the Phalanx Covenant, AIDS hysteria and Time Fugitives, and the feeling of loneliness. No mutant is an island. Television was satirized in the episodes Mojo Vision and Long Shot.
Yeah, that's one of the things I loved so much about this series, and a lot of the series, comic related specifically, series in the 90s. Because I mean, you had Batman the Animated Series, you had Spider-Man. All of these shows were not remotely shy to deal with heavy fucking issues.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think has kind of been lost.
That's the vibe that I got.
You know, now cartoons are so fucking patronizing.
Yeah, they are.
You know, like, kids just don't understand this type of shit. This is going to be over their heads. This is going to be too emotionally heavy for them. Like,
So let's just give them Uncle Grandpa? That's fucking bullshit, man.
As if kids don't go through divorce and broken families and wanting connection and not having.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like because I watched this every week when it was on Fox Kids. Every Saturday morning, I was up 9 o'clock. You won't catch me doing that nowadays. Like, I'm sleeping to like fucking noon. But but like
watching cartoons.
I just watched it because it was the fucking X-Men. I wasn't paying attention to what they were dealing with.
But like, even if you're not directly paying attention, I'm sorry, there's no way you're not going to
absorb
the skills to deal with things that you wouldn't have had otherwise by not having any exposure to it at all.
Watching the X-Men cartoons and reading the comic books and unfortunately experiencing bigotry and racism in my life, like, had it not been for the comic books and the cartoons and stuff, I wouldn't have tried to take the approach that, let's say, a Professor X would. You know what I mean? I was more leaning toward the, like, Malcolm X, Magneto, any means necessary type. So it's crazy because I never thought of it that way. Like, I never thought about it that way at all until I had bought the animated series and watched it maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I was like, holy shit, like, this is some heavy ass shit.
And I also wanted to point out that it's weird how we announced that we were doing this, you know, after we recorded the last episode, and we all got the X-Men series, and I started watching it, and I'm just like, holy shit, this is like exactly what's going on now.
Yeah.
And this was on like in the 90s. Like,
it's stuff that's always going to be relevant. And one of the things,
even more so, like, at our point right now, and I was just like, holy shit.
Well, and one of the things that just 100% resonated with me was there was this one, and I didn't watch the episode this time. I didn't get through all of them. I remember still to this day one series of episodes where some company comes out with a cure to being a mutant, and Rogue hops right on that shit, right? Because she can't control her powers. She can't kiss someone. She can't hold hands with anyone. Like, she can't have, you know, physical human contact with someone she loves. She can't express herself physically at all. And so she's right on top of that. And, you know, so, like, that always resonated with me just because, like, I mean, how many times are there that there's something about yourself that you wish you could change? You know, so, like, even though I hadn't experienced that specific problem, I mean, that is fully translatable to anyone about anything.
That's the cool thing I find about the X-Men is that it's one of those, you know, stories that says, you know, it's okay to be different.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love that aspect.
I brought it up earlier between us here, and I have not found a single bit of information on it, and I was looking like my entire lunch break at work. I was trying to find that. I remember when I was a kid, I read, it wasn't a comic, it was an actual book that like had, you know, multiple like actual chapters. You know, it wasn't like Harry Potter
Like
size,
graphic novel, though, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I remember bits and pieces of this, but it was essentially, I want to say it was an alternate origin story for Wolverine. It was where he was essentially born with all of the stuff that happened to him, because, you know, in the main story, it's like forced upon him, you know. But in this, like, he would notice it, like, growing up. Like, there was one time where, like, he was writing in a diary or something like that, and it's like, I tripped in gym class and broke my nose, and within minutes, like, my nose was healed. And I found that kind of strange, you know. And I was like, I scoured the internet, so if anybody out there has any idea what I'm talking about, let me know, because I would love to read that if it exists. I don't know if I'm just Mandela affecting myself, you know, but if it's out there, that'd be
Had
awesome.
a fever dream.
All right, so now we're going to look at some comics. So we've got the X-Men Adventures, Volume 1, Number 1, which came out in November of 92. Art was done by Steve Lytle. The publisher was Marvel Comics. Its schedule was monthly, and it was an ongoing comic. The publication date was from November 92 to March of 97, and there were 53 issues, all surrounding the X-Men. X-Men Adventures was a comic book spin-off of the animated series. So it began in November 92, it adapted the first 3 seasons of the show, and then in April 96, it became Adventures of the X-Men, which contained original stories set within the same continuity. The comic book lasted until March of 97, shortly after the show's cancellation by the Fox network. I hate you, Fox.
Do we know why it got canceled?
Because Fox is a jerk.
I don't know.
Fox just gets off on canceling things.
They do.
It seems.
Like, how many times have they canceled
Family Guy.
Family Guy? How
Brooklyn
many
Nine-Nine,
times?
Last
Futurama.
Man on Earth.
They canceled Futurama a couple times, didn't they? Yeah.
Comedy Central picked it back up.
Yeah. Which, by the way, like, I love Futurama. I'm not such a fan of the new show.
Disenchanted.
It's all right.
Or Disenchantment or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's Disenchantment. Yeah.
You know what? Angela
It's
said
alright.
the same thing. She
It's
was like,
alright, but it's kind of just
good,
like,
but it's
all right.
not.
It's not anything like just outright hilarious. It's not anything groundbreaking.
I don't think you can ever bring that type of comedy back.
Yeah.
From Futurama.
It
Yeah.
does have a very weird sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It does click with a lot of people.
the one thing I was gonna say while you were
Right.
talking about that spin-off there is I still constantly kick myself in the ass because I never got into comic books around this time. Like I was into the superheroes and stuff like that, but I didn't know about comic books or
Yeah.
whatever. And yeah, they're still around, but there is just so much shit to read, and
There
there's
is
so many
tons of
different
content.
story arcs and.
By the
like,
way, I will say this as far as Cyclops, whom I absolutely fucking loathe. I hate Cyclops. But
Why?
X-Force, he's just annoying as fuck. Like,
He does seem kind of like a bitch.
he is. He is. He's like, well, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
But X-Force Cyclops is actually kind of badass.
Okay.
X-Force is just badass, period. And that's where you get X-23, who is
not even gonna
phenomenal.
jump into X-Force Deadpool though.
Oh my god.
But yes,
X-Force.
But yeah, every X-Force for the win.
Wakanda. Volume 5 of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe A through Z hardcovers lists the X-Men cartoon as part of the Marvel Multiverse, inhabiting Earth 92131. Also, the plague-infested future that Bishop tried to prevent in Season 2 is listed as Earth 13393, while Cable's release of the immediate cure of the plague is listed as Earth 121893.
Which were all fucking amazing stories.
Yeah, season 2
It
handles
killed
handles the Bishop story, and it is just probably one of my favorite parts.
Okay. Cool.
The comic book series X-Men 92, one of the many tie-in titles for the Marvel's 2015 Secret Wars event, and later was released in its second volume as a continuous series in early 2016, starring members of the TV show's Reality, along with X-Men Adventures Volume 1, which is 1992 through 94. It had 15 issues. X-Men Adventures Volume 2, 1994 to 95, which had 13 issues. X-Men Adventures Volume 3, 95 to 96, which also had 13 issues. And then there's Adventures of the X-Men 96 through 97 that had 12.
And now we'll get into video games. Yeah. X-Men Cartoon Maker.
I never even
Have you never played
heard
any
of
of
this?
these Cartoon Maker video games for the PC?
Never had heard of this.
So what it was...
I had a Simpsons one.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
Yeah, where it would give you just a background cell, right? And you'd pick the characters and you'd...
they're all like little... They're doing like different little animations.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you'd place them all where you'd want them, and then you'd push play and they'd create this cartoon for you. You know, so X-Men Cartoon Maker was a recreational software package that allowed the user to create animations with a minimal level of sophistication by utilizing a library of backdrops, animations, and sound effects from the show. Wolverine and Storm, voice only, help you out.
It's like Mario Maker before
Yeah.
that was even a thing.
Yeah, they have
So
one.
That's pretty cool.
They have
It's
one
the
for
actual
Spider-Man.
voices of Wolverine and Storm. Like,
Yeah, but
like
they
they
only...
commissioned them to do it.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Huh. All right, so then we've got Capcom's Versus series.
Yes.
Yeah. So the characters in the series were licensed by Capcom, and they were the inspiration for the video game X-Men Children of the Atom, which in turn would be the basis for the Marvel vs. Capcom sub-series of games. Most of the voice actors who did the voices in the series reprised their roles for the video game.
Which was, I think, is fucking cool.
Yeah.
I think Wolverine did, like...
Because that's a labor of love at that point.
Berserker Barrage.
Like,
Yeah.
because you know they're not making a shitload of money, especially at that time, for doing stuff like this. At least that would be my assumption.
Yeah.
But anyway, Capcom would continue to use these characters long after the show was canceled, before eventually losing the rights to create Marvel-based games to EA in 2001. Capcom, however, would reacquire the rights in 2008 and released Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds in 2011.
Along with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom.
I would like to... I don't know if any of you saw... Or, I'm mostly asking you because I know that you keep up with the gaming industry a little bit more than the rest of us. But
yeah.
I don't know if you saw when we like to call it the holy shit or the holy fuck edition. When games come out, they are just the editions that you just get everything with. That you pay way too much money for it.
Way too much.
But the Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came with a box that you'd open up and it had the Infinity Stones. And somebody from, I can't remember what
Wait a
company.
minute. So which game is this?
This was Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom. The new one?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Is it called Ultimate?
Yeah. Or is it?
I
No,
could
it's
be-
Infinite.
Infinite.
Oh, sorry,
yeah,
sorry,
okay.
Infinite.
So yeah, I was thinking, I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, okay, that makes
But
sense.
somebody from one of the journaling companies got a hold of it, and he's like, he opened it up, and he's like,
You can't even take them out.
no, you can't take them out. First of all, second of all, apparently the quality was just fucking
Abysmal.
atrocious. Like
Oh.
it was
It was
bad.
really bad.
God
But
awful.
the cool part about it was, didn't they like have a backlight and like you could light them up?
Yeah, it was 100% just a prop.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
they never sold out of that collector's
No.
edition. They
Really?
still have a bunch at our local GameStop. And I was thinking about it the other day because I was like, yeah, at the time I wanted to get into it because I wanted to get used to 3-player battles because it was before the new Dragon Ball Fighter game came out, and it's developed by the same people, and it follows the same 3-on-3 combat. And I was looking at it, and my buddy Brian at GameStop, he's like,
Oh, yeah.
he's like, I wouldn't get it. And I was looking at it, and it comes with a bunch of badass figures. Like there's a Miss Marvel one, there's
Miss Marvel.
there's an Iron Man one,
Be still, my.
and then there was one of Mega Man X, and I was
Oh, really?
I want to buy
Dude, you get it just for Mega Man.
I would, that's dude. I have such a problem. Like, I'm buying shit that only like, it only interests me in like one piece.
Yeah.
Like one piece of this is like, all right, I'm all right with. I'll spend an asinine amount of money just for that one part.
Right.
I was about to drop $200 on Resident Evil 2 for a 12-inch statue of Leon. Like,
But it looks really good.
I know.
It looks really good. You can
Yeah.
see mine.
Yeah,
I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy that they're out though. I didn't see that. I didn't see that one going out, which sucks.
So thank you so much. This concludes our little knowledge portion. Thank you for listening. We've got our question of the week.
So our question of the week, it's not really a question, it's more just tell us about your gaming horror stories.
We wanted to apologize to guest star Haim Saban. We just didn't have enough time. Maybe you can come by next time and tell us about your selling Power Rangers.
As always, you can find us on social media.
Facebook us at the Nerd Corporation of Podcast.
Twitter and Instagram at Nerdcore Podcast.
Or you can always email us at nerdcorppodcast@gmail.com.
And if you want to rid the world of mutant bigotry with us, subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/nerdcore podcast. Several tiers of prizes to have access to, including shoutouts, ringtones, loot, and bonus content. So for all of us here at the Nerd Corporation, I'm Eddie Lyon.
I'm Derek Reese.
I'm Nick Lewis.
I'm Cole.
Tune in next week when we'll figure out if Eddie will find us better gear to work with.
I'm trying.
I like how you have mutant bigordy.
Bigordy.
What?
Mutant bigordy, not bigotry.